Hey guys, I'm Mark.
I'm Alen.
And welcome to another episode of The Next Man Up. Well, welcome back to the Next Man Up podcast and part 2 of our conversation with husband, father, and pastor David Milroy. If you missed part 1 of this interview, it may be worth going back and listening to that one first, so you get a sense for who David is and his story and really what brings us together in this space. With this episode, we'll pick up as we transition into talking about the program that they've started called Boys to Men, and we'll also bring another special guest into this conversation. Hope you enjoy. Well, so let's transition here a little bit to what really brought us together, which is this this program that you started here a number of years ago. I believe it's called Boys to Men. Take us through that story. What you were thinking, what prompted you, and let us in.
Sure. Boys to Men first of all, it's a shout out to a mid-90s R&B
I was about
group.
to ask.
We started Boys to Men as kind of a program for any dads and sons to be part of. This is our 6th year.
Okay.
So the way it started, I have a great friend, one of my best friends who lives down in Charlotte, and we grew up together, went to high school, college together, and he told me about this book. It's called Raising a Modern Day Knight. I know you guys are familiar with that book, and it kind of lays out this way of mentoring your sons and a way of training them up for manhood. And so we were talking about that book, and we were talking about he was at the time in Charlotte working with some high school dads and their sons and meeting with them. And I took that idea and thought, this would be this would be an awesome thing to try. I don't know what we're doing, but we'll try it. And so
that sounds familiar.
So we it's like starting a podcast or something.
Something like that, right?
So I grabbed two guys, two good friends with sons about the same age as my son Hunter, and actually not 2 but 3. So Tim Hobart, Dave Mitchell, Ryan Martin, and their sons, and just said, hey, this is the book I'm reading. I don't know how to apply it, but let's try it. This is what I want to do. I want to, in our culture, it's really easy not to disciple our sons, not to raise them up and mentor them. And so let's try to do that together. And so the first summer, our boys were young. They were probably, it's going on maybe 10 years ago. So Hunter was maybe 8 or so, and we had just several events over the summer. So one time we did this, and we tried to model it after these 4 aspects that are in the book about being, what's the guy's,
Robert Lewis.
Thank you, Robert Lewis. Yeah. So he talks about the definition of manhood: accepting responsibility, rejecting passivity, leading courageously, and living for the greater reward. And so we tried to set up an event based on each of those. So one night we were hanging out, and we blindfolded our boys, and we put them out in the middle of the woods in the dark and told them to find their way back to us.
I love it.
And so that was the, being courageous. And so and then they made it back, and they didn't die or anything. And so we had a bonfire, and we hung out and celebrated. So we tried to do these events that reflected these different values, and that was basically it. Then the next summer we did a couple things, and then we had a camp out one night, and it was great. We had a great time, and we had s'mores, and we cooked, and then we're in our tents, and probably 2 a.m, the heavens opened up. It was like the hardest rainfall, and we were drenched. It was, so we packed up at 4 a.m. and drove home, and it was brutal. But we remember that very well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So after that, we we thought, like, okay, we've been doing this. Maybe there are other dads and sons who would want to do this too. And we just opened it up, and it was amazing. There was a tremendous response within our church. And so the vision of this is it's to teach our sons a biblical definition of manhood, so that dads and sons can grow closer to Christ, closer to each other, and closer to other dads and sons, and have a great time doing it. That's basically, in a nutshell, that's what the vision is.
Yeah.
And so we started doing it, as I said, 6 years ago, and we had a ton of dads and sons come out, and we were just like making it up as we went along. We didn't really know what we were doing.
It does. It does. Welcome to the crew.
So yeah. So it's scary doing that, but it's also a joy.
Yeah.
And like seeing these other dads say, "Man, we need this. We love this." And so that's what we've done, and we've kind of developed content, and I don't know, it's not really curriculum, but it's basically training our boys in these different virtues that relate to what it means to be a man. And we also do some really engaging stuff as we are able to through connections and through God blessing us. So a couple years ago, we went down and saw, this was one of my favorite things that we did. We went and saw Tom Ryan, who's the head coach, wrestling coach at Ohio State. And the dude is an amazing, he is an amazing speaker and has been through serious tragedy in his life. And he shared his testimony in front of our dads and sons. And oh, by the way, he happened to have Kyle Snyder there, the Olympic gold medalist and like one of the greatest athletes, truly one of the greatest athletes of our time. And he had his gold medal, and and then Kyle Snyder, and both of these guys are very serious. They're deeply Christian men. And so Kyle Snyder shared his testimony, and really powerful for all of us to hear their stories. And so we've had little, like we went to the CPD training facility and went through a battery of different basically live scenarios where, and I was awful at that, man. I failed miserably in both counts, in both situations.
Give you a gun.
Well, they gave us not a loaded gun, but we were supposed to be like the police officer in this situation. I was partners with my son and failed miserably. So I did not miss my calling. I figured that out.
Yes.
But having a couple of police officers stand up and share their testimony, and it was really encouraging to the police officers too, because they had these dads and sons who, they're just trying to become the men. We're all trying to become who God wants us to be, and really encourage them. So we've done like field trips like that, but the core of it is just some biblical teaching and then small group discussion around what it's like growing up and what it's like being a dad.
Okay. I think what captivated me the most in hearing about this is it doesn't happen. We were talking about this before we hit the record button. There are not many instances where you come across programs like this, what you're doing, what we're trying to do in our own lives. And so I was instantly drawn to, what are you doing? And how did you figure it out and work your way through it? Because there's no manual. We've got a few resources, more today than we did 10, 12 years ago when that book was first written. But a lot of it is just, we're finding our way because this cultural idea of initiation and clear transition from boy to man, it's been lost along our societal evolution. It's been lost, and so I was just drawn to it. Just hearing what you guys are doing and excited and happy to support it and encourage you guys along the way.
Thank you. Well, how are you getting the fathers and the sons buying in?
Well, Alon, let me interrupt your question before David gets a chance to answer and introduce the second guest we have with us today. David, when I asked you if you'd be willing to come on and share your story and tell us about what you're doing, you gave me this requirement, and it was, hey, can I bring my son along too?
Absolutely.
I think this would be really cool. And, honestly, the thought didn't cross my mind, but when you suggested it, I loved it. That's great. It's totally what we're about here. So Hunter has joined us as well. Your oldest son will be a senior this year, 17, 18 years old. So Hunter, welcome into this conversation.
Thank you for
Glad you are here with us.
Welcome to my podcast, son. It's really great to have you on here.
You guys can work this out after we're done. It's really cool because not only do we get father's perspective, we'll be able to bring son's perspective into this conversation. I think it's a fantastic idea. So, Alon, if you would, just repeat your question.
Well, since we're bringing Hunter in now, let me rephrase to where I was really trying to go to, because I could see how fathers would buy in. We have this thing. When my son was born, it was just different. I was like, oh, I got a little man I need to raise now. The gears kicked in and such. But as a son, Hunter, what do you feel was buy-in for you to jump on this road with your father?
Well, I think the thing that really got me in was when we started 10 years ago, and we began with the camping, the real fun stuff, and so naturally, me being young, I was drawn to it and thought that'd be awesome. And then also having friends there that I was comfortable with.
So it wasn't the torrential rain that really got you in. It was more.
No, it wasn't.
By the way, every father-son needs an experience like that, right? Sure. It's horrible at the time, but it's something you talk about forever. That's right.
What he didn't tell you is that when we woke up, we were probably in a couple inches of water.
Oh, that's awesome.
So they sent me and the 3 other boys to the car, and then they packed up everything. And so meanwhile, we're in the car, warm car, we're chilling, we're having fun.
Wow.
The
all
picture
of a sudden,
of hero.
The trunk opens. The trunk opens. They are drenched, and they're stuffing all the tents in the back.
Lead with love and service, right?
Well,
model it out.
At least sometimes. Yes. Well, I think I want to be honest. I think it's a great question, Alon, because there have been times when I have not said, Hunter, how do you feel about going to Boys to Men? I've said, we're going. And he has not, there throughout you were in 7th grade when we started this more programmatic, and we go every other Sunday basically through the school year. Mm-hmm. So there have been times when, you didn't want to go. And because he has had it more than any other single person in our whole church, besides me, he has been part of Boys to Men. And so, the lessons, some of them repeat, and very intentionally so, because these are the only times they're going to hear some of the things that we're teaching. And so we want to be repetitive because every other day of the year they're hearing another message. But that can get, it's a Sunday evening, there's homework to be done, there's a game on, there's something else that you want to do. And what's been really, from my perspective, and I would love for you to feel free to speak honestly about this, but from my perspective, as we have gotten through the times where it almost felt like a grind at times. It's not all it was just every time we met, it was wonderful. And, the Holy Spirit descended like a dove and I understood everything about being a man. It wasn't like that. There were some that were boring or
this
they
is
weren't
my son.
well taught. Yes. There was no Darth Vader God voice. But over the course of all these times of investing, it has been a complete game changer for our relationship. Wow. I think we both feel that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Preceding the camping trips and everything, when we actually started the Boys to Men, I think 7th grade and 8th grade, I don't remember a whole lot about what we did during those years. I think the thing that sticks out to me the most from the middle school time was just like being surrounded by the high schoolers. And I mean, I was kind of drawn to them. I looked up to them. So I think one of the reasons I went was to like kind of, I mean, I was a little shy, so like I was a little afraid of them at the same time, but I thought they were cool. And so
They were big and you were small.
yeah, right,
Giants.
right.
They're high
I'm still
schoolers. They're men at that point, right? They're shaving and
Yeah.
exactly.
But yeah, middle school was kind of drawn to the like the older boys and wanting to be like accepted and stuff. Like I wasn't really thinking about what the lessons were, and I was more in it like for myself and like to kind of like see it as a chance for like a social like upbringing or a like time for me to hang out with people.
Yeah.
And then as I got into high school, I got more roped in, but at the same time, as I got older, I felt less drawn to the social aspect, and my interest kind of dropped. And I felt it very repetitive, like the lessons sort of, but like I felt like the outline that we did every week, and like it was kind of just going through the motions. And I mean, freshman, sophomore year, I probably I would have rather been at home doing something else. It swung a little bit as it went through sophomore year, but this past year, my junior year, it was, I don't know, something was different. Like I kind of noticed that I was in a position of leadership, and it kind of opened my eyes that I needed to step up and be a role model for the younger kids that were coming in, and I began to become more present in the conversations and kind of what Boys and Men was all about. And it, like, I still had those couple weeks where I wouldn't want to be there, but yeah, those were definitely still there. But overall, I definitely felt more attracted to what Boys to Men had to offer.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the most important aspects that's developed in Boys to Men is a role for the older young men to play, like leadership. And so now for seniors, like we just finished our planning for the year, and we had dinner with Hunter and another senior, and then a couple other guys couldn't make it, but laying out, okay, this is the year where you're going to be leading some of the lessons. You're going to be up front. You're going to reach out to the juniors to get them on board to help lead, to share their testimony, to be more visible as a leader. And so it's become gradually. We didn't have this in mind. We didn't have some detailed plan, but it's become a place where you begin to develop as a leader as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
So you're on this journey to being seizing manhood, and seeing yourself as a man. Mm-hmm. Like, what are some of the things that Boys to Men has? What are some things that you've really latched onto that Boys to Men has helped ingrain in you? When it comes to that, yeah.
Right. Every time we meet, we have a different lesson, and the lessons are they're usually focused around one word, and then we go over scripture and practical uses for whatever the word is. So it can be honor, it can be leadership. We do one every time or every year for the definition of a man as it's written in, what's the book called?
Raising a Modern Day Knight.
Yeah. And so I think the thing that sticks with me the most through that is probably the purity talk that we have. And it's infamous. for a good reason. We do it every year, and leading up to it, all the guys are kind of like
Not
what's
looking
it gonna be
forward
like
to
now?
it.
Not looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It really isn't bad once it's over, but I think the purity talk helps a lot about what I've kind of seen manhood as being, because purity can be, and we talked about this over dinner the other night, but it isn't just purity like in like a sexual
Right.
case.
It's way bigger than that, isn't it?
Yeah, purity, like having like a pure mind, like not like actions that you do, but like what you're thinking of, like stuff that goes through your head, like being pure, and that like trying to avoid sin, like can be any sin, not just like sexual temptation or anything like that. But I think that is a huge, I think that's a huge part for what I've seen, like what a man should be. And then also the big like foundational lessons that we have, like what I said, like honor, integrity, just it transforms what my view used to be about, like what my dad touched on earlier about the caricature, like being big and strong and having lots of money, to it's more about your character and what you show other people and what you truly believe.
If you get manhood as character qualities and not just this caricature or this cultural construct, like you said earlier, David, that's a game changer. It really, really is.
And I think all of the models that are upheld, going back to what we were talking about earlier, all the models that we see in our culture, for the most part, are those markers of financial success. I wouldn't call it relational success at all.
No,
but
it's
sort
sexual
of using,
prowess.
Yes, using other people for your pleasure.
Yeah.
And being famous. I mean, those are the, and so Lost are those models of, like whether it's you could work a trade and be a man of character, and nobody knows who you are, but you love your wife, you love your kids, you raise your kids, and you teach them, who they should be. You teach them about Jesus, and that is a far greater example of a man. And how do you do that? Well, you have to practice certain virtues in order to do that.
Yep.
And so, like with my dad, we didn't do anything that approximated this. And what we never talked about, I promise you, we never talked about sexual purity. It was way too embarrassing for both of us. So like there were some things that I didn't have, but I saw who he was. That had a profound impact on me.
Yeah.
And if he had not been there, like to show me what a man was, it wasn't explicitly like, here are the things you need to do, son, but he lived it. If I hadn't had that, I would have been bewildered.
Yeah.
And I would have gone along with probably what the rest of the culture defined it as. The other thing I'll say about this, for us, this walking through Boys to Men year in and year out, is every time we meet, there is one thing that you have to do before you meet again, and that is every father and son needs to sit down and have preferably a meal together, one-on-one, or a conversation together. And so whatever the topic is, honor, purity or whatever, you are sitting down then and you are talking about that. And that, like for me personally, if I look back over all of the things we've done, that has been the greatest gift to me, is that time that we have spent together, because life is busy and it just it gets away from you, and unless you are really careful and disciplined about spending time together, you just don't do it. I mean, you see each other and you kind of ships passing.
It's not the same though.
Right. So that's been a huge gift for me. whether it has been for you. I don't know, but I know the food has been good
I'm
for you,
thankful
Hunter.
for all the Bob Evans.
That's right, the food. The bacon has been really a huge plus.
Bacon.
Oh, that's great. So let me ask each of you this question and get your responses independently. Hunter, I'll start with you first. For the boys out there, maybe the middle school boy, even the high school boy, who is wrestling like you are, like the three of us did. What does it mean to be a man? What would you say to those guys as words of encouragement as well as challenge about leaning into true manhood?
Well, I think a big part of like that answer is like where they stand in their faith and whether or not they want to devote like their life to representing what a real man is. And like we said, rejecting passivity, accepting responsibility, like those two, like they go hand in hand. And like procrastination is huge. It's something that I do a lot. And yeah.
Understood,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
We've overcome that completely, haven't
No,
we, guys?
no, we
Oh,
have
absolutely.
not.
Absolutely not.
I will not tell a lie.
But for the guys that want to like pursue that, I think doing it, starting to develop habits is huge to do now because what you do now is going to mold what you do in the future. And if you start these habits, like not procrastinating, getting what you need to get done when it needs to be done, if you start that now, then life will look a lot better for you, and it will also develop you into somebody that's a lot more capable to take on the world.
Very wise.
Yeah, it's good. Accepting responsibility, right, at an earlier age. I like that. Yeah, thank you. David, from the father perspective, the father that's out there that's interested, but maybe a little unsure, maybe not sure how to start. How does this go? Like, what would you say, words of encouragement and challenge to the father out there?
I think, first of all, I think the biggest thing you can do is just take a step. Just try something, and with your son, like, and I think that it really is not. It doesn't have to be terribly complicated.
Yeah.
Like the book we've been talking about, the Robert Lewis books, wonderful resource, but if you want to help your son understand what a man is and to then embrace that, I think you have to be willing to consistently engage with him and teach him. And if you don't really know, like, I don't know, what do I teach him? That's a great book to start with, but you don't have to read that book even. Like, if you whether or not you follow Christ, you may not be in the church or believe in Jesus, or you may not know what you believe, but you have been given this gift. If you have a son, you've been given a great gift, and with that gift comes tremendous responsibility.
That's right.
Take that mantle on, take that responsibility on, and spend time with him and know him. Know his, like, for instance, know what his gifts are and encourage him in those gifts. Don't be afraid. I think a lot of parents, but maybe dads certainly are afraid to, correct clearly because of fear of disapproval or being overbearing, and that is certainly something that I have done many times in raising Hunter. However, you can do that and teach them and not, like, if you screw up, it's okay. But you need, just try and and have, like, I think the very first step would be, how do you define manhood?
Yeah.
Do you have a clear definition in
Right.
your head? Because
Where are
if
you
you don't,
going?
it will be foggy to
Yeah.
your son. But once you understand what a man is, and of course, as a follower of Christ, I have someone to recommend to you, and that's Jesus. Look at
Right.
his life. But once you have a model, don't be afraid to teach that model to your son, and don't be afraid to talk about things that might be awkward or uncomfortable to talk about, because if you just try it and you take a risk, you will be able to help him and lead him and guide him in a way that you wouldn't if you just sat back.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, it's so interesting, but I find as I'm raising my son to be a man, I'm becoming more of a man. Just in the vulnerability and the humility and the sense of, this is my responsibility. I'm going to show you responsibility by taking responsibility of you. And it's almost like everything that I want to pass on to him, I have to show him, and those steps can be, I feel like that Indiana Jones movie where he has to take a step out into nothingness. Yeah. You're just so unsure. But the encouraging thing that I'm hearing out of like what you're saying is, no step is wrong. Like, just start somewhere, anywhere.
Well, certainly there are wrong steps you could take, but if you really have his best interest in mind, and you want to teach him, not to not be Harvey, Weinstein, but a man of character and virtue, and a man who serves other people, you really can't go wrong.
No,
like,
you can't.
If you're trying to teach that, you can't go wrong. But I would also say that a lot of it is our own humility and the ability and the capacity to recognize how far we fall short in the areas that we're trying to teach, and we're all people who are on the way to becoming who God wants us to be, and we're not there yet. And so, if we can do that with a little humility, then and I mean any earnest effort will be rewarded. Yeah,
that's encouraging. I hope people who are listening are encouraged by that, because we were talking about this a couple of podcasts ago. Some fathers don't want to take the step because they feel they're going to mess up anyway. But knowing that, look, just start somewhere.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, or maybe just, I don't know, laziness sometimes. Like that is just not wanting to make the effort.
Passive.
Mm-hmm. Yes, passivity, right? Which there are I think there are many dads who are just passive, and they won't take the active steps to mentor their sons. But I think there's also a danger of being too overprotective, and part of manhood is releasing your son to make mistakes and take responsibility for himself. I know that Hunter turned 18 just recently, and trying to loosen the reins, like trying to let you do more of, like, make your own decisions. And man, that's hard to do. It's tricky.
It is hard to do.
It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. How am I doing in that, Hunter?
I've definitely noticed a change on the reins. How much?
I love how you put that in quotations.
How much
the reins?
How much slack is now in the reins?
Yeah. Very diplomatic answer, young man. Nicely done. Nicely done. No, that was well said, both of you.
Thank you.
So it's been an honor to have you guys with us today. It's been a lot of fun. I really like the element, Hunter, that you brought to it. We're the old guys that sit around talking about what to do, how to do it, but you guys are the goal. Mm-hmm. You are the vision that we have in mind to be better than us. And that's why we're pouring into fathers. That's why we're pouring into you guys. And what a thrill for you to be here with us and talk about this program. And great idea, David, to invite him along. And thank you for being open with us and sharing your story. And
absolutely grateful to do it, and thankful that you came with me, son. Mm-hmm. And one other thing, just for anybody who's listening, if you live close, if you are in this community or around this community, Northeast Columbus, this is a program that we would love to have other dads and sons be part of.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
And even to come check it out, like just to come, if you are interested at all, please reach out to Mark or Alen, or reach out. They have my contact info, or check out the church, NewAlbanyPresbyterian.org, and you can find out who to get in touch with. We would love to have more dads and sons be part of this.
Awesome.
Yeah, there can't be enough of us out there doing this work and doing this effort. So congratulations, props, encouragement to you guys to keep doing what you're doing, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey listeners, thanks for journeying with us on this Next Man Up podcast. We would love to hear from you. Maybe you have a question or an idea, perhaps a topic for us to consider. If that's you and you want to reach out to us, you can get us at feedback@thenextmanup.com. That's feedback@thenextmanup.com. Again, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we'll see you later.